Yes, second question is, Rabbi Elie, Turkey is considered by many circles as a role model for the Islamic world. What strategic role do you think Turkey should play in the Middle East, and what are your expectations from Turkey for this?
Well, certainly Turkey has been considered as a role model for the Islamic world, but of course Turkey has had very good diplomatic relations with Israel for many years, until the last year or two, for the events that happened, and Turkey would be a very good ally to Israel and would be a role model for relationship between Israel and an Islamic country. Dr. Babuna, you mentioned before regarding Marxist theory, and I believe tyranny and dictatorship can come in many, many different ways. We have seen dictatorship and tyranny in the fascist model, like the Nazi regime and the Mussolini regime. And also we have seen tyranny and dictatorship in the communist Marxist realm, as we've seen in the prior Soviet Union and North Korea, for example. I think tyranny can have many, many shapes and forms, and we as people of the free world, we ought to speak against it. And yes, with Mr. Davis, I think there is a need of re-education, because democracy doesn't really occur overnight. Democracy is something that has to be learned, that has to be internalized in people's thoughts and attitude, and it takes time. If, for example, take the example of Generalissimo Franco, Francisco Franco, who was the dictator of Spain for several decades, and he understood that the moment he leaves this world, he has to return Spain to a democratic state, and indeed was able to resurrect democratic of which Spain now is a clear democracy. And he was able to educate his people and put them back on track of democracy. You need a good leader. You need a leader that loves his people. You need a leader that is dedicated to his people. Yes. That will educate his population towards democracy, and eventually over years, and sometimes might take several decades, before that one generation is educated very well in democracy, and before the new generation is born into a democracy, for that country to become democratic completely. And so it does take time, it does take education and re-education, but it also takes courage of a leader who may have started as a dictator to turn himself and his country into a democracy. That is going to take, and I don't see that happening, unfortunately, in any of the Arab countries, even in those that are going to a revolutionary aspect. And take the example of Syria, if I may, that we have been thinking that will of the people who are rebelling against a dictatorship, but we have seen as of late many articles in many world newspapers regarding the components of that free Syrian army, of those rebels. So there is a lot of homework for democracy in that area of the world.
Yes, I would like to start with, there is actually no problem between Turkish nation and Israeli nation, because according to Islam, the Jews are called people of the book, and Allah orders in the Quran, they have to be respected and treated very nicely. Allah says, argue with them only in the kindest way. So we love the same prophets, we believe in the same God, and we had very, very good examples since the time of the Ottoman Empire. As you know, the Jews were brought from Spain, from oppression, and we lived in centuries with peace together in the time of the Ottoman Empire. This is the model. So I don't think there is a problem between Turkish nation and Israeli nation. And I will give you a very good example. For example, in the Malatya, this government built a missile shield. And this missile shield is only for protection of Israel. So there are definitely no problems. And these artificial tensions, whatever, it will definitely go away. And we are naturally allied with the Israel. Because we know Israelis, the Jews, are the descendants of the prophets. Of course, they have the right to live in Israel. This right is given in the Quran. In verses, Allah tells that the Jews the children of Israel, Allah settled them in the Holy Land, and they will be there until the last day. But so are the Christians and Muslims will live in freely, with freedom of worship and freedom of thought, and peace and security will live with progress of science, technology, and arts. So what should be done is, first of all, alliance of three Abrahamic religions is very important, crucial to bring peace. Alliance of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, which is actually a very normal thing, which should happen. This will bring peace. And also unity and coming together with independent countries. For example, if Turkey, Israel, Russia, and Egypt will unite with independent countries, of course, will come together, this will solve the problems. And this will definitely will happen because there is no other alternative. Everybody is suffering from that. And I don't think there is any need to be hopeless.